Hello and welcome to the Claret and Blue podcast. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by Neil for the Liverpool and Gra podcast, your second podcast of the night, you absolute glutton for punishment. For the audio listeners there, Neil nearly fell off his chair. I'm completely slouched. I will start by saying I don't feel well. I've got a sore throat since yesterday and I've got a raging temperature. So if we can wrap this up in about 10 minutes, Neil, that'd be good. Can we do that?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go for it. If we can get 10 minutes of conversation out of this, it'd be monumental.
Yeah, and not
Nil all draws are never fun for anyone, but sometimes they can be like you can have a great nil all draw. I think this one for Villa wasn't, specifically in the first half. First half's a lot wrong, but second half, an unorthodox substitution at the second half seemed to kind of open it up slightly at times for Aston Villa, and at least we got to see Harvey Elliott, who I keep on calling Harvey Barnes. Probably will do 15 times in this podcast.
Mate, anything could come out of our mouths over the next 20 minutes or so, to be honest. I think you're coming off the back of already doing this. I've just said I don't feel well. Nobody feels great about Villa at the moment. I think for our analytics, a 0-0 or a draw in general is probably one of the worst results because it's nothingness, isn't it, really? At least if you lose, there's a lot to be angry about or what went wrong. If you win, obviously that's good. But a draw, there is still what went wrong, I guess. I saw a good tweet from Bardell this afternoon saying that if you don't ever look like scoring, the best result you can do is 0-0. So in some ways, we've not lost the game. That's the positive. But even you mentioned there about Villa looking better in the second half. I also felt the same, but I still felt around the 70th minute, I'd quite be happy not to just don't lose this from here. I never thought we'd go on to win, but I thought there's a risk we could still lose it, even though we were better. So, yeah, it's been a terrible start, hasn't it? Terrible.
It really has, so we've done something historic, not scoring in our first 4 games, first time ever, not winning in our first 4 games as well. I think I think I read somewhere is historic. I don't know whether it's the first time we've ever done that. I presume not. But yeah, look, it's tough times. It's tough time. It's been tough times since pretty much the second Emi Martinez gets sent off against Manchester United. It's been tough times. It's been tough times. And look, he comes back today. There's a lot of tapping the badge. There's a lot of blowing kisses to the fans, waving to the fans, all that kind of stuff. Trying to ingratiate himself. He ingratiated himself again with some good saves today. Needed to be called upon. He made some really good saves. Look, the Emi Martinez thing, I know you didn't bring it up. I suppose for me, probably the one positive or one of 2 positives I think that came out of today was, outside of not losing, was, look, comes a time you just have to draw the line under Emi Martinez. There's no point in creating another pressure point or another, another wedge issue, within the discussion point. He came in today, played really well. And Unai said afterwards that that his head's in the right place. He's here for Villa, and he did all the right things he needed to do today. Turned to the fans, went to the fans, the last person off the field. So, mightn't be what everybody wants, but it mightn't be in the 1st of September that everybody wanted. It certainly wasn't for me. I was pretty, forward about it. The way I spoke about him at that time, between the 30th of August and the 1st of September. But he's here now, and there's no point for me in giving out about, probably the best goalkeeper we've had in my lifetime.
Yeah, I'm not particularly bothered about the tapping the badge and clapping the fans and stuff. He still kind of has to do that, really, I think.
Oh, yeah, do what you need to do, yeah.
Yeah, but played well. If it wasn't for Emi Martinez, we'd lose that game. So,
yeah.
Again, it's some kind of positives. Martinez has got us a point away, and I did the preview with Ian from the Royal Blue podcast, and he was backing an Everton win, by the way, and they've started really well. However, what point am I trying to make here? I've totally forgotten. I don't know.
I know what point you're trying to make, Dan, because you do look very, very sick. So I'll jump in here while you regroup your thoughts. Your eyes are almost closed, I will admit.
But I got distracted by the name of the podcast. I've completely forgot what I was going to say.
The Royal Blood podcast would have been a completely different topic anyway. But did you know, Dan, that we are the first team in the history of the world ever to take points against Everton at their home stadium?
I did know that, yeah. All three of their stadiums, yeah. The Anfield, Goodison Road,
Yeah.
Goodison Park, and the Hill Dicko, the first team to get points off all of them. I really can't remember what point I was going to make. Ah, I do. There we go. I said, in isolation, the first time you go to a new stadium, relatively early in the season, while it's all still flashy and exciting, a
Mm.
point there. Like, it's a good point. They've started well. We haven't. You take away all the context of what the game was like and the slow pace of it, the lack of chances, some dodgy defending at times, a little bit kind of slapdash all over the place. What are we doing here? I think was the most kind of said question across social media. Like, what is actually going on? You take all that away, a point at a new stadium's decent, but you chuck all that context back in. It's Martinez that's got you that point. We've created basically nothing apart from a shot from 45 yards from Emi Buendia, which to be fair was quite clever but poorly executed. And we're now into the fourth game and fifth if you want to include Man United of last year. That we haven't scored a goal. Going
Mm.
back to Mara's goal against Spurs, that was 120 days ago that we last celebrated a Villa goal in Premier
Mm.
League competitive
Yeah.
football. That's not good
It's
enough. Because we could have drawn 1-1 today, and it's the same points tally, but 0-0 just doesn't feel good
my
because
point.
it's the same again.
My point on my podcast is exactly that. I'm not disappointed with the result of a draw away from home. I'm not disappointed. We're not a very good team away from home anyway. And Everton are a team, a resurgent team.
Yeah.
My mindset about this game would have been probably vastly positive if it was a 1-1 draw or a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, because
You
you'd say
know,
at least
just
we tried something, we've created and whatnot. Yeah, yeah.
you could see a difference. You could see a difference. My mindset after the game was immediately went to, I didn't like the team that went out. I didn't
Mm.
like the team that went out. Now, Emi Buendia played pretty well. I was in the team sheet tantrum we did. I was like, this is all the chips are in the middle of the table on Emi Buendia actually finding space here, and he did find space.
Yeah, yeah.
And what big thing he needed to do was, because if he had another game whereby people were barging him around the place, and he was finding himself on the floor the whole time, and he was slow getting into possession, and then therefore couldn't get out of possession again. That would have been difficult for him. But what he needed to do was find space, get into possession quickly, move it on quickly, and he needed to be that fulcrum. And I thought he was. Okay, for me, the big issue though that was, and I'm repeating a bit of this, I suppose, for people who've listened to my post-match podcast, was I think our fullbacks attacking play has been absolutely dreadful this season. I think it's been a lot different, but it's this season it's been noticeably more. It's been noticeably poor. Like Luca Dean doesn't seem like he's able to get forward anymore. But then you bring Ian Matson in there. Yes, he's well able to get forward, but he just doesn't have the defensive ability that Luca Dean does.
Even that though, there's times when Marlon got distracted by the comments, where Dean has got into a decent area, but the ball goes across, and I always just think as soon as he's about to hit it, I know this is going to go over Watkins into the back post, and there'll be nothing there, and this will come to nothing. Whereas again, I'm not suggesting that this was the glory years, but when we had Moreno come into the team, and it was about getting to the byline and cutting back, and it was about pace and quickness of thought and playing on instinct almost. This kind of super patient, controlled, get into this area, then put the ball in. It's all very like robotic or rigid. Of like, if I had to ask AI to generate a video of a Villa game, I could tell it what to play, and I think it would play out exactly how it does in real life because it's so like keeper to centre back to centre back to right back to midfielder to centre back. I could tell it to do that, and it would just be the highlights of the game. So I know what we're going to do. Whereas there's periods last year and the year that we qualified for the Champions League where you're playing with that pace. That's that quick movement, really quick passes, little time on the ball because you want to get it out. It's so slow and pedestrian, and I've said it loads of times, but it's always a frustration that when you're losing as well, or you're not winning in today's case, last 5 minutes of the game, I am thinking, let's just get out of here with 0-0. That's decent. But when it's so slow, you just think, you try something now, maybe you do just spark something out of nowhere, but we've shown no signs of a spark. That's the worrying thing for me.
And that's exactly it. It's like we're doing like last year and the year before, we were playing out from the back. People found it frustrating, and it like that's not what I'm bringing this up, and it's not even go at anybody who finds it frustrating. But what you could say to people then was like, yeah, but watch how fast we click into gear. Watch how
Yeah.
quickly we change pace when we start getting that ball forward. When we go, right, the gap is there. Let's go. Gaps aren't there because teams are going, yeah, they can pass it around their box all they want. All we need to do is score the first goal. We don't have a second gear this year. And that's because I don't know what it's because. Unai Emery mentioned, John Townley had a piece up and I didn't read it. I only read the headline on it. Said that Unai mentions that it's tactical reasons. It just literally flashed up in front of me there a moment ago on
Just
my phone.
today.
Yeah, just there a moment ago. Unai, was it John? I think it was John that had it up. Yeah. Unai Emery attributes Aston Villa's goal scoring woes to tactical issues rather than individual performances. I don't agree. Villa have now failed to score in 5 consecutive Premier League games. Blah, blah, blah. It goes on with regards to that. No blah 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 to John, but you know what I mean. We've already spoken about that. But I think that if it is tactical issues, then I spent a good part of time in my post-match podcast saying there's no way that Unai Emery is going, right, lads, you know what we're going to do today? The same thing we did yesterday, except better. Do you know what we're going to do
at
this
point,
week?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, no. And the reason I say that isn't happening is, look, we can look at the facts here of the whole situation. Unai Emery is fabled for his analysis, video analysis, big, long video analysis things, and statistical analysis. There's no way he looks at all that and goes, yeah, let's do the same thing again, except do it better. It just can't.
The same thing, don't we?
But yeah, but do we do this? We have the same pattern, but we don't do it in the same areas of the field. There's a difference. Like some people go higher, some people go lower, and then obviously your triangles then happen around the middle of the field. But what I'm finding is that we're really stuck for a 10. We're really stuck for 10, and because of that, because we don't have a 10, our fullbacks are too slow to get forward. When they do get forward, they're too slow to get back. We're leaving Mings and Konza very exposed. Mings had Konza loses the ball in midfield or whatever, but Mings has a lung buster that he has to do to get back to Tierno Barry and saves the day in that instance, although I think Barry put it wide for a finish. But there's just everything is slow. And it's not the fact that it's slow and ponderous build up or anything like that. It's just that it's either we're not getting into those positions as quick as we used to, or when we are in those positions, the other team are like, yeah, we're expecting you to go exactly there. So now we're here, and the game of chess kind of slows everything down. And that could be it too. I think that's probably what Unai Emery is referring to, that we're doing the things he wants to do right. It's maybe that other teams maybe are going, yeah, well, look, we have your number here on this, and that is up to Unai Emery to get sorted. But I will be fervent in this, and I will say, fucking, if you've got leaders on that field, excuse me for swearing on your podcast, but if you have leaders in the field, then it bugs me so much about Aston Villa in the last 10 years is if you have leaders at different levels of that field, apart from our goalkeeper and our centre half, but in specifically in attack, you have somebody who tries to grab the bull by the horns. Jack Grealish did that in the Dean Smith era, and he went, right, listen, someone needs to win this game. Right, it's going to be me. There's nobody doing that for Aston Villa at the moment. I think that's more of the problem. That there's nobody who's got that bit of get up and go to do that. And Harvey Elliott might be that man.
Yeah.
But I actually think Gassan tried his he tried really, really hard when he came on today. I think Bundia tried really hard, but
I was impressed by Gassan. Well, relatively speaking to the state of the performance, I thought he was all right. I think the team that starts the game, nobody looked at that team sheet at 1:45, whatever it is, and gone, I know that this will be a fast attacking pace game with loads of chances. You knew exactly what kind of performance was going to come based off that 11. Now, I didn't expect Sancho to play, and he's not featured, has he? Didn't come off the bench, I don't think. No, he didn't, did he?
Only Elliott and Gassand and Lindelof and
midfield at one point.
Well, I think that was needs must. I think that was just
we've got lots of injuries, I'm not going to kind of read too much into it, although I did tweet Jacob Tanswell's Victor Lindelof is in midfield now, and I put, this was the quarterfinalist of the Champions League last year. Yeah. How do you stoop this low so quickly? But there's 4 injuries in midfield, to be fair. So, but then we've spoken about, could Pau Torres play midfield? Nah, can't put a centre back there.
I won't put him anywhere. He's nowhere near.
Pau Torres not a better option than Lindelof there. Is Lindelof much better physically? I've not seen enough of him.
I would wager that Lindelof has played centre midfield before.
Think okay, well, yeah, whatever, maybe.
I
Um,
don't know. I'm
but I,
literally googling it. I'm chat GPTing it now. Lindelof ever played in midfield.
I thought
But
that
it's like
Elliot
something
would play.
Benfica would do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
you could see it. He has played there
Started
before.
his
So.
career as a central midfielder, featuring as a defensive midfield DM option, and he's played there for Manchester United and played there for Benfica. Benfica.
Fair enough.
I knew those dastardly tacticians in Portugal would have something to do with defensive midfield for somebody like Lindelof. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good on the on air research, Neil. Okay, so we can excuse that. Needs must, as you said, but Emery basically said Elliot was ready. Arne Slot said Elliot's ready.
yeah,
So I was pretty
that's the
convinced he would be
strange one.
starting. So for him not to start, I know he doesn't often start new players, Emery, but there's a lot of this of, you know, I saw somebody list the 11, and rather than the names, it was the managers. And it was like Dean Smith, Dean Smith, Dean Smith, Steve Bruce, Dean Smith, Ewan Emery, Stephen Gerrard, etc. And it's a bit like, whatever. We spoke about this before. Watkins, Concern, and the likes, when they're good, it's one of the best centre backs in the league, one of the best strikers in the league. So it doesn't matter who signed them or where they came from or how
Goalkeepers,
long
one of
they've
the
been
best
here.
goalkeepers in the
Yeah,
league.
whatever.
You know.
They're here for a reason because they're still good, right? So kind of park that. However, you do kind of wonder, and again, the frustrations of the financial stuff, you can't complain about that when your bench is full of new signings. They might not be
Well,
fit and ready to come, but you got Sancho, Lindelof, Elliot, Gesson, Marlon, Matson, and Arna probably
oh,
would have been starting if he was here, but if not on the bench. So your bench is full of signings that you've made and you're not giving them the chance. So what does that say
what
about them?
what would have so I did a calculation on that. So let's just say Gessan 30 million on the bench.
Yeah.
Malin 18 million on the bench. Harvey Elliott potentially 30 million on the bench. Jadon Sancho, somebody who's been sold for mega bucks on the bench. Now I can understand that. Look, Sancho
Yeah,
hasn't
fitness is
exactly
fitness,
torn
yeah.
up trees. But he hasn't torn up trees either. You see, that's the other thing. So we're taking a punt on Sancho. So I can understand that. Then you've got the likes of Ian Matson, 5 odd million. You've got Emma Dunan at 50 million. So like that is I'm not too concerned by it because you don't just put players in there because you go, oh, Jesus, I need to put them in there because I spent 50 million on them,
Is that not
But
freshen it up when it's stale, though?
that's exactly this is where I was getting at there. Like
Sorry.
today, Luke Dean gets an absolute slobber knocker into the side of the head. He gets a knee and has a massive
yeah,
lump
big,
sticking out of his
yeah.
head. It was like
Yeah.
something from a Looney Tunes cartoon. Like it just grew straight away. And you've Ian Matson on the bench, and that
I thought he
could
was
have
going
been
to come
something we
on
were
then,
crying out for. I thought he was, but he didn't. And I can understand why. I'm always going to be the first person to say, but with Ian Matson. Ian Matson's good, but I'm always going to say it until I see him show an ability to be able to defend.
Yeah.
You have to bring that up because he's a left back at the end of the day. But I thought today was probably the day to bring him in if we really wanted to go for it at some stage. And that's why I think maybe you and I maybe didn't want to go for it in the last 20 minutes. Away from home, we've not been the best away from home. We've no God-given right to win away from home in a new stadium. I think the pragmatism was probably high. I wouldn't be surprised to see us against Brentford on Wednesday night. Tuesday night?
Tuesday, I think.
I wouldn't be surprised to see us play Matson left back. I wouldn't be surprised to see Elliot,
Yeah, you'll see loads of
Sancho,
changes in that because Villa
Malin.
won't care about that competition.
All the changes. Jim
Yeah.
O'Loughlin. Well, I think they will go to win that game because I think Unai Emery is like, I can't go to the League Cup at the third round now without having won and not having scored a goal. So I need to score goals.
I think that will be, and again, I don't want to say I'm not bothered about the results. I will be. If we lose to Brentford in the League Cup, I want to win the competition. However, I think that's a chance, to me anyway, I would see that as a chance for whoever does play, Gesson, Elliot, Sancho, Marlon up front, maybe, whoever. This team you're not been able to get past, they haven't scored a goal yet. I know, I say it's only Brentford. They beat us a couple of weeks ago, but it's only the League Cup. They'll make changes as well, right? It'll be different. But if Marlon goes and scores a hat trick, for example, that should then be rewarded by Sunderland, no? And I'm not saying in place of Watkins, but just something has to change. So that game has to be the opportunity for the 6 or 7 changes to stand up and go, right, I need to be counted here because I'm not getting into the first team. What's going on?
I would, like, if he did go and score a hat trick against Brentford, I would start him over Watkins because I'm, again, conductor of the Watkins bus. Always have been. You know, I am like I'm number one fan, unashamedly. But what I need to know is, does the attack spring into life if you move any one of the pieces out? And none of the pieces there are are immovable because we have
Watkins is
to score
interesting.
goals.
Watkins is
He's not
interesting
getting any
because
service,
I
but
know, but
is
he
he not
looks,
getting any service because of X, Y, and
but he
Z?
looks, he did looks. It's hard, isn't it? Because is he not involved because he's not getting service, or is he not getting service because he's not involved?
No,
Do you know what I mean?
he's definitely not getting service. But I'd like to know what other people could do with lesser service. Like Malin comes
Yeah,
on today and he goes up top. He's pretty anonymous as well today. Now look, I know it was only what 8 minutes or something like that he had in
yeah.
the field, but there was little to nothing went into him at all, and he's
I
certainly
just think
not going to win it in the air.
we said about pre-season that it doesn't really matter, but we had a decent enough pre-season in the end, scoring lots
Uh,
of goals. Watkins will start like a house on fire this year. He's scored 5 and 5, a couple of headers. He's barely had a kick. So
mm,
what's changed? I think that's the. I mean, we will do, and it's terrible for our views and stuff when Villa don't play well. I mean, there used to be a thing of like, oh, when Villa aren't good, it's good for us because people like a
mm.
moan, but people just zone out. It's an apathy towards. No one wants the next game. No one's Brentford on Tuesday night. Do you know what I mean? It's just all very like, ugh, I could zone out from Villa, but we'll do a big Q&A of like, what's happened? What's gone wrong? How can this be happening after 4 games? What's changed? Because like you said, these players aren't bad. There's still people in the comments talking about, bottom three and relegation and scraps and being in trouble and stuff. And if that's your opinion, that's fine. Something will click at some point. I think Emery said we'll score. Watkins will score goals. Like it will happen. Of course it will. But the longer it goes on when we don't look good, the more fear people will have of, well, maybe this isn't the season we expected. Maybe this is going to be 13th or 14th and we eventually drop
Mm.
out of Europe and this is kind of, we've reached the peak of this kind of generation.
Do you know what the easiest way past financial difficulties are for next year? Not being
Not being in
Europe.
Europe. Yeah. How
Easiest way
counterintuitive is that?
past yeah. How counterintuitive is that? Then you lose revenue, you can grow your costs and so on. But we won't get into that. That's a conversation for 6 months' time. But
Let's talk
I
about
think going
Rogers a
back,
bit. Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, I think so. I was just about to say it. I was just about to say about Rogers. Just
Uh,
like we saw him 4 days ago, 5 days ago,
yeah,
was it?
look good for England.
Look go for it, England. Then like he was statistically he was the worst player on the field today.
Was it?
Um,
Wow.
we had I just saw somebody put up his statistics and said he had the lowest amount of touches of anyone in the field today. He had like a 67% passing rating. He won only one of 9 ground duels.
Wow.
Um, double teamed, I will say, quite a lot of the game today. He was seeing double coverage, if you want to call it that way, and that's why Buendia was able to get into space in the middle of the field because they were kind of comfortable leaving him get into that space.
Yeah.
And they were dropping Ganagay with Rogers, and then it was one of the two centre halves. Then was or one of the fullbacks was kind of spying on him to make sure that if he went anywhere wide or whatever, there was going to be somebody in there as well. Dewsbury Hall was also coming back into an 8 position. So, but we saw Brentford do that as well. Brentford
Yeah.
just did that. They just said, right, you follow him around the place, and then we'll have a fullback will spy on you if you go wide, and we're going to just drop back our one of our more advanced player. And theirs was I remember his name, the Danish lad, they signed from Sampdoria. But it can't be that easy, like can't be that easy just to nullify him because you can be damn sure the weekend that Serbia did that for against England,
Yeah.
or they would have like had an international quality player that would have been standing toe to toe with him, and he pretty much took the whole Serbian team to task. So
Yeah.
what's the issue there?
There was, you're right, he doesn't have much space and stuff, but there was a period in the second half where he does get into a bit of space. I think the ball comes across from the right hand side and he's running with it a bit. And Watkins is the running behind. He just massively overhits the pass. I don't know if
That
you
was
remember,
it.
but
Yeah, that was
it's
that
just
was a
like that was
crazy
your
bad
one
pass.
moment that if you are really struggling in the game and you're a really good player, you've got to take those half chances when you get them. If that's perfectly weighted to Watkins, maybe we score and it's 1-0 and we win the game.
Mm,
It's those such fine margins that you have to, I don't know, get the final ball right, and it's the final pass, the final shot, the lack of a shot. Like it's, as I said before, it's very robotic and easy just to go through the motions and keep hold of the ball and recycle it. And we're kind of safe here, but we need a bit more than safety. We need a bit of risk. We need a bit of
mm,
quality. And I get that that's hard sometimes when confidence is low. the players keep saying, dressing room's good. We feel okay when in difficult times you have to stick together. There's not really much evidence of that. And if you do go and lose to Brentford, whether it's a rotated team or not, the pressure on Sunderland is huge. On Villa for the
Mm.
Sunderland game is absolutely huge. So the longer this goes on that you've not scored or you've not won a game for however many days, it all just builds up into a what's going on here, Neil? And that's not a nice feeling for fans of a football club to feel like that, because we came into this season thinking, right, this is the year that we finish in the top 6 or so and try and win the Europa League. And that might still happen. It's only 4 games still. But there's enough evidence over these first 4 games to say, well, what's going to change for us suddenly to be that team that can be top 6? So Watkins score a hat-trick on Sunday next week, and we go, okay, now we're going to hit a groove and we'll beat Fulham and we'll beat whoever's after that. At the moment, I don't like the, well, I don't know when our next goal's coming from, where's our next win coming from, but it does feel like that. Will we beat Sunderland? I don't know. If you ask me right now, I'd say no, I don't
Yeah.
think we do.
Yeah, but football, the fickleness of football, and I always say this is like I'm very much one of the greatest things I've ever heard football managers say is still Dean Smith. Don't get too high in the highs, don't get too low in the lows. And like we could be here sitting on next Sunday going, you know what? Villa still have outside of the Palace game. Villa have only conceded 1 goal, and that was to Newcastle. And we've just gone and beaten Brentford 4-0 in the cup, and we've just beaten Sunderland 4-0 away from home here, and so on. There's the game of football might turn, and you never know what happens from that point of view. But I don't expect that to happen. But something needs to happen. I take a 1-0 goal off somebody's bum at the moment. Just to kind of get the whole points moving and the goals for column moving as well. As I don't know whether it's you or me that's frozen, but I will keep on talking anyway, just in case. But yeah, it all starts for me, I think, in the League Cup on Tuesday night. Use that as a competition where you get your
Sorry, mate. My stream just completely broke down then.
your grand. I was continuing to talk there while I was waiting for you to come back. I was saying you use the
I was
League
still
Cup
here,
as
but
your.
I just went bust.
Just couldn't see you. But yeah, you use the League Cup to get a bit of confidence. Do Brentford put out our full team? Probably don't. We were a better team than Brentford. We just couldn't defend for toffee against them. And no pun intended with the Everton playing Everton today. But I expect to see like I was going to say I expect to see changes, but like this moment in time, if Yuri Tielemans has a calf injury. Do we see George Hemmings and John McGinn in midfield? George Hemmings actually, I think, is
He
injured
was
at the
injured,
moment
wasn't he?
too.
A couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago. I don't know whether he's better now.
We see Hayden Borland and John McGinn, the smallest ever midfield. Two Scotsmen in the middle of midfield there. What happens? Do we see Victor Lindelof in there? Do we see what do we see? What do we see there?
I don't know.
A perfect opportunity for Ross Barkley to come back. Considering how low in numbers we are in that midfield, but yeah. But as what I was saying there is like the fickleness of football. Next Sunday we could be saying, yeah, look, Villa have scored 8 in the last 2 games, and 2 4-0 wins. Fuck, we're rocking them. We're going to win the league. HMS, whatever. And I keep on forgetting I can't swear in this podcast. It's
mate, honestly, you can do what you want. I'm losing the will to live, to be honest. Andy says, listen, we're rubbish. Drop time to be clever. You Unai lovers are embarrassing. Fine, whatever.
Thanks, Andy.
Don't listen. I don't care. The guy that got us into Europe 3 years in a row, I'm not going to turn on him because we haven't scored a goal yet.
I don't think we're embarrassing for supporting our club.
Yeah. What do we want then? Nuno to come in. Is he going to make it better? Just relax.
And then I suppose as well, maybe Andy isn't speaking to us. Maybe Andy is speaking to other people in the comments. That's fine. But look, as I say, yeah, no, it is what it is.
Don't get me wrong, by the way. This isn't it'll all be good one day and it'll all be rosy. Everyone kind of keep the faith. It's bad.
No,
it's terrible so far. And that will change, I think, because it has to. This squad is too good. Well, from what we've seen in previous seasons, it's too good not to be top half even. If Villa finished in the bottom half, that'd be a failure. I mean, people will say, Spurs finished bottom half and almost bottom 3 and won the Europa League. And we take that now, and probably would, wouldn't we? At least we scored some goals along the way, but it's been bad. It's been terrible so far. We're not defending it. We're not trying to be clever about it. It's
I think we've
absolutely shite. We've
sugarcoated
said this
anything.
before. Nothing's
Yeah.
changed really. We were better. We were a little bit better. Second half was okay. Gesson looks okay. But I said this before when Buendia had a spell where he was okay. All right, but that's not the standard, is it? Okay isn't what we want to be. We want to be
No.
brilliant. We want to be swashbuckling. We want to see Rodgers score goals. We want Watkins to score goals, and I do think those will come. But that doesn't excuse what we've seen so far, which has been terrible. But if Unai
I
Emery
don't
does
care
stick
if we.
through loads of meetings, you're telling me he doesn't know that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a if it's a and Tuesday night if it's a Marcus Bizot takes ball comes back to him, he just hoofs it up the field. It takes a wicked bounce, spins up over the other goalkeeper, goes into the back of the net, and that's how we score our first goal. I think that's all. That's all. That's all I'm focused on is. And do you know what? We do run a sweepstake almost like the Grand National. Maybe that might be something to do. Who scores Villa's first goal? Out of all the 40 first team and academy players, and we see what happens from that point of view. Because
what game is that going to be in? Would be a star, wouldn't it?
We will score on Tuesday. I'm going to manifest it. I'm going to score on Tuesday.
I think we'll score on Tuesday. I think we'll score on Sunday as well. Whether we win the games, we've not said that, but I think we'll score at least. Andy says apologies, just fuming. I get it. We're all annoyed. We're all angry. But I'm not Unai out. And I've said before, we'd have to be in serious trouble for me to change my tune on that. Not winning after 4 games is not going to change that.
And it's look, just a small one on that actually. With the age demographic of the players, if the players are, let's just say it is a case the players are like, not really buying into Unai's system anymore. I would be for getting rid of players and getting rid of the manager.
I've said that before. I've changed the entire squad before I changed Emery.
Well, I wouldn't do it just because I'm so flippantly like or so much of an Emery supporter or whatever. But I think financially for the club, it's better to change the squad and run the gamble that way and change the manager and then go change the manager and then now we need to change the players as well. Anyway, look, that's a conversation for another day. And you're sick and I'm actually tired. So.
That's the point that really people are making about this 3 Dean Smith signings and 2 Gerrard ones and stuff. Well, what you're saying is then there needs to be a refresh. So I would rather get rid of some players before not just changing Emery, changing the entire structure around him.
And this is the thing. People were also saying, and I'm not even going to go there in the comments, so please don't think about that. This is just, context. John Duran, people were saying in the comments there, got us out of a hole last year. John Duran was an Unai Emery signing. Well, like he was signed under Unai Emery's watch. Yeah. But Diaby, people mentioned there, is better than these guys. He was signed under Unai Emery's watch, and they were sold because of PSR reasons. So, there is context there that is not the full story, but it does bear thinking about that those 2 players specifically potentially could be in this team. Well, if one wasn't allegedly a lunatic and the other guy wasn't sold so that we could actually play in Europe that year. You know what way it goes. But anyway.
I'm going to end with one other positive. I called in the match preview that Matty Cash was a nailed on yellow card against Jack Grealish. I stuck 20 quid on it. Won 75 quid. So that we've not lost, and I've got a bit of cash in my pocket. Is literally is my only positives from this afternoon. That was an absolute nail on yellow card. I wish I put more on it, to be honest. But do gamble responsibly, etc., etc.
I had somebody send me that they bet on Matty Cash to be booked 5 times. They put 5 separate tenors on it to be booked. So once again, bet responsibly. I don't know if that's responsible. All of them came in, but I don't know if that's responsible. So
probably isn't. But when it comes in, it's like, well, you were right, to be fair. Right, I'm going to call it a day there. This is gross, sweating. It's so hot in here, but I'm cold. You know what I mean? I've got goosebumps, but I'm hot. Neil, thank you for joining me. Your second podcast of the day. I really appreciate getting me out of a bit of a hole. Thanks to those who tuned in live and got involved with the comments. We get the frustration, trust me, but some patience is also required to a degree. However, a couple more games like this, without goals, without wins, I'm going to get more and more irate. Right, I'm going to end it there. Neil, thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching along or listening to this episode of the Claret and Blue podcast. And we'll be back on Monday or Tuesday with a Q&A. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.